Now a closer look at the Values Voter Summit in Washington. It was held by the Family Research Council. That's a social conservative group. And the weekend got off to a rousing start on Friday night when a prominent Texas pastor criticized Mitt Romney and his Mormon faith while introducing Texas Governor Rick Perry.
The Southern Baptist Convention, which is the largest Protestant denomination in the world, has officially labeled Mormonism as a cult. I think Mitt Romney's a good moral man, but I think those of us who are born-again followers of Christ should always prefer a competent Christian to a competent non-Christian like Mitt Romney.
Joining us from Indianapolis to talk more about Reverend Jeffress's remarks about Mitt Romney and the Mormon faith and Ron Paul's victory in the Values Voter straw poll is the president of the Family Research Council, Tony Perkins. Welcome.
Good morning, Carol.
Mitt Romney did not fare so well at this summit. Not only was his religion called a cult, he did not fare well in the Value Voter straw poll. Last time around, he actually won. This year, the winner was Ron Paul. I mean, Ron Paul is not exactly well known as a Christian conservative.
Well, first off, those comments by Pastor Jeffress were not said from the stage. It was a sidebar conversation he had with pastors, or rather with reporters. And this, what we're doing here is I don't want to gloss over the fact that there are theological differences between evangelicals and Mormons, but that was certainly not the focus of the Values Voter Summit and not the focus of FRC. We're not trying to build a national church. We're trying to build a coalition across this country based on values. Mitt Romney articulated those values this year. He's not been working them as hard as he was 4 years ago, which I think is what's reflective in the poll. You know, Ron Paul, let me just say this, we had over 3,000 people registered for the event. Over 600 of them showed up just on Saturday morning to hear Ron Paul's speech, vote for him, and then leave. I don't want to take away the credit that is due that organization, that campaign, for organizing, get people out of bed early on a Saturday morning. I wish I could get my kids out of bed that early, but they came down, they voted, they left. I don't think Ron Paul is truly reflective of where value voters stand.
So you're saying your own poll results don't mean anything?
Well, no, I actually say, you know, when you look at statistics, statisticians will look for outliers. I think Ron Paul's, when you look at everything, it's an outlier in this poll. You look at the underlying, you see Herman Cain finishing a strong second, followed by Rick Santorum, Michelle Bachmann, and Rick Perry. Those are more reflective, I think, of actually the other polls and what's happening in the social conservative community.
So Ron Paul probably means nothing, but Herman Cain does.
Well, this is the majority of people came there for the weekend for a summit to hear all of the candidates. They didn't come there to support a particular candidate. They came to listen to the candidates and express their preference. You know, Ron Paul bussed in over 600 people on Saturday morning, not to attend the conference, but just to hear his speech and vote. Now, they all paid their registration fees. It's an open invitation. Anybody can come, but individuals have to register, and they did that. The campaign tried to buy blocks of tickets early. We refused to sell them blocks of tickets, so they brought individuals. So I give them credit for being organized, and I do say that just like what we see happening on Wall Street and other parts of the country, we should not discount the fact there's a lot of discontent with big, ineffective government that's taking place in this country, and I think the Ron Paul campaign reflects that. So you can't write it off as saying that it's not important. The message that his campaign is sending is something other campaigns have to listen to as well.
Right. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Herman Cain because, you know, as you said, he did well at the Values Voter Summit. Came in second. We've been talking about that. He also told the Christian Broadcasting Network that God has played a role in his success and has been guiding him since the start of his campaign. I wanted to get your thought on other comments that Herman Cain has made. Let's listen.
If you are envious of somebody that happens to be rich, that you call a fat cat, go and get rich instead of expecting them to walk outside of their office and write you a check. That's not the way America works. Work for it.
And of course, Herman Cain was talking about those protesters taking part in Occupy Wall Street. Some might believe that those aren't very Christian views, are they?
Well, I haven't read the word fat cat in the Bible, but, you know, look, I think the principle is there. You know, when he is a success story. If you look at his life, how he has grown up and how he was successful in the business world, and those principles of hard work, faith, of following the teachings of Scripture and Jesus Christ. He is an example of that, and I think it's reflective in his success. And this was not the first time he's been to the Values Voter Summit. He's been there before and has always got a very warm reception. The reception he got this time was overwhelming. He had people on his feet because he gave a great speech. And, you know, I think there's something to be said about his results in the straw poll.
Well, I guess what I'm centering on, our economy is in a mess. There are people who cannot find jobs because we have a 9.1% unemployment rate, and big companies aren't hiring. So to say that people are out there protesting because they're not working hard enough, or they're not trying hard enough to find a job, or they're envious of others who have jobs, is that wrong or right?
Well, I think in talking to Herman and listening to him in the broader context, what he's talking about is really a mindset driven in Washington, D.C., that somehow government is going to create jobs by telling businesses to hire people. It doesn't work that way, and he knows that because he did that. What you do is you create an environment that fosters economic growth so businesses can hire by limiting regulations, lowering the taxes. And I think what he's saying is there's a mindset that somehow businesses owe people an opportunity or owe them a job. Look, this is a land where you create opportunity, and he created opportunity for himself, and that message is resonating with people.
As far as your organization and you personally are concerned, how would you characterize the people protesting on Wall Street?
I think that our leaders in this nation need to pay close attention to what is happening, because I think there is growing discontent on both sides of the political spectrum. You have the Tea Parties, you have these demonstrations on Wall Street, but when you combine it all together, America is a very divided country, and there's policies that continue to divide us even further. And we've got to bring the country together, but we've got to do it by getting government spending under control that is damaging our economy and the ability to give people opportunities and jobs by allowing business to do what business does.
And just one more question about these protesters. Do they have a point when they point to Wall Street? Can you see their point?
Well, I think when you look at the overall culture and what happened on Wall Street and big business a few years ago. Look, I am a strong supporter of capitalism. I think it is the best approach to growing an economy. But capitalism guided by morality. And when we have a breakdown in morality, capitalism goes awry. And we've seen that in recent years. So morality is a part of this discussion. That's why we say when we talk about creating jobs, we cannot avoid the values issues, because we don't want capitalism unbridled by morality.
Tony Perkins, thanks so much for being here with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Carol.
Wow, what a great conversation. You know, in the Bible, there's so many really interesting and famous phrases, many of them contradictory, of course, but one of them is it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. So they don't say fat cats in the Bible, but there are plenty of sort of little phrases and parables about fat cats nonetheless. Interesting. All right, still to come this morning.